This is the Shine On You Crazy Daisy podcast, and I'm your host, Trudy Simmons from the Daisy Chain Group, providing platforms and opportunities for businesswomen to be seen and heard. This platform is for the women entrepreneurs that want to hear the real stories of what it takes to be yourself and run a business with all the different hats that you might have to wear. Come and join the Shine On You Crazy Daisy membership, offering online networking, co-working, collaboration and monthly masterclasses for you to grow your knowledge. Go to thedaisychaingroup.com for more information. These are the platforms to hear and share the stories of the tenacious, the rebellious, and the resilient women that are working towards the future that they build for themselves and their families. Hello and welcome to the Shine On You Crazy Daisy podcast, and I am thrilled and excited to introduce you to Laura Henshall from TNM Speakers Lab. Laura, thank you so much for being involved in Volume 4 of Shine On You Crazy Daisy and the podcast. Please tell us about your business.
TNM Speakers Lab supports business owners to really get their message out there, to feel confident, to have clarity on their message, and then to be able to distribute that on all platforms. What
I love about when I speak to you is I tend to sit up more and pronounce my words.
Oh,
because I've had training with you and everything. That was my best.
And you're very good, Trudy.
It's fascinating to read the chapter and see where your story started and where you've come from and what you've come through. But how did your story of feeling and being small and voiceless begin?
Well, it really did begin when I was young, when I was a child. I tell the story of being a premature baby. So I was born at 24 weeks. And that in itself is, one of those things. That's not the reason I didn't have a voice or that I felt small, but I think it had an impact on the way that I saw myself. And I also went to a very strict primary school. And so a memory that I have is getting into trouble over something, ridiculously small, and not being able to get my words out. I couldn't speak. And I feel like it started around then, and it just stayed that way for a long time. And that was just how I saw myself, that I didn't have an opinion, or I couldn't speak up, or I was so petrified of saying something wrong or getting into trouble. That was a big thing. And it kind of stayed with me for a long time.
I think I love talking about things like this as well, because so many people have got those stories that start somewhere, but the outcome is that they feel small and voiceless. Either they're not being listened to or they can't be heard. And you've had that for so many years. So where and what is your passion now? And how do you realize that you could use your voice to help others?
Well, my passion is supporting others to really stand in their confidence, to use their voice and to be able to share their gifts with the world. It doesn't matter what that is. And that came through really being able to discover my own voice. And I didn't really realize that I had one until I got into acting and did my acting training. But even then, it didn't come through, because I was absolutely great at being a character and getting on stage and taking on somebody else's life. But when it came to me and Laura and speaking up, it still was an issue. And so it just got to a point where I thought, no, this isn't working. It's all out of alignment. What is going on here? And how can I make sure that I know I've got a voice, because I use it, and I know that I've got things to say. So how can I make sure that I'm actually living an honest life and doing that in my life? So I kind of then made sure that I was putting myself forward for doing presentations that I would never do. I was speaking up at work, putting my hand up in meetings that I would never usually do. I was making requests that I never usually would do. And it was all very, very scary. But I just made myself and pushed myself to do it. And it made a huge difference. And then I also had that vocal voice training behind me from doing the acting. So that supported that.
Getting out of your comfort zone. One of the things that you said in the chapter is that the people you work with, you want them to be able to communicate with passion, excitement, and without fear. And that really hit me, in that when we are as you just said, acting is one thing, talking about yourself and your business is a completely different way of being able to communicate, and being able to do that with passion, excitement, and without fear is really standing in your confidence and being able to be authentic. I know that word's thrown around, but if you're not feeling and being authentic, then that's when the acting comes in, and that's when it's overdone. And I learned that a lot from you, actually, watching you in this progression and also training with you, is that feeling is very different in standing in your power.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's that energy and how you see yourself. And if you've got the clarity and you've got the certainty in the belief in what you're saying, really that's what you've got to have. And then obviously the rest of it is training and things that you can learn. You can learn to use your voice. You can learn how to breathe properly to support yourself. As long as you've got that core belief in what you're doing, it's there. It's ready to rock and roll.
I know it's about you, but let me tell you, when I did one of my first big speaking gigs, a conference that I was holding, and you were there, you were one of the speakers, and I remember so vividly standing outside the room and saying, Laura, I'm so nervous. I've got to go and stand in front of 100 women and deliver all of this and make sure the day is okay. And you said, come with me. And we went into this tiny room, and what you put me through, I am not going to tell people. But it wasn't about you must project your voice and be able to get your words out. It was so much more in what you did. And my mind switched almost within that 2 minutes from this is going to be the hardest thing ever to this is something that I'm going to smash out of the park. And then I did.
Yeah. And you did. And it was amazing. It really was. And, you made people cry, made people laugh. And that was because you were really just being present in the moment and looking at it as a conversation. And so that's where it comes in. Yeah.
And I think that's where a lot of people try or don't realize that when you're not feeling grounded in what you're saying, then it's all head and your head's going really, really fast. It was amazing, honestly. Anybody, it was amazing. This is where I get my speaking talent from.
Yes, that's why the podcast is so amazing. And it is.
In the chapter, you ask yourself a brilliant question, which is, how do you perceive yourself and your place in the world? How did this question help you to grow and reflect on your growth?
Well, it was thinking about that certainty element that I was talking about, and that even if so I remember thinking that when I first started the business, it was very new, and I was new at training people to speak on stage. So I was kind of like, oh my God, I don't really know what I'm doing, but the things that I do know, I know can help people. So I wasn't going out there saying that I had all the answers, but having a level of certainty in the fact that I had knowledge that could help people, that enabled me to start. And then as I just kept on going and doing it and doing it and doing it and helping people, and then looking back, and then you go, oh, that worked, but that didn't really work. So coming back to that question is, how do I perceive myself, is actually coming back to it all the time and going, right, where am I right now? Because how I am today is very, very different to who I was when I started. So much has changed, and I can see that progression. But you can also see the mistakes that you've made, which you have to make, and use them as learning curves. Does that answer the question?
Yeah, no, that's perfect. And it's also, it's for everybody to go and ask themselves that question, because what I think is really important, and you think is really important, is that feeling of, I'm here right now. How do you perceive yourself in this moment? But looking back, how far have you come to get to this moment? And when we forget that bit, where you are as that place in the world is very different. And I've seen you do that over the years, and it is a brilliant and such a simple question to ask yourself.
It is, isn't it? And it quite often, I think it's so easy for us to move the goalposts and to go, oh yeah, well, I've done that now. I've done that massive big speaking gig that was on my vision board for 5 years. I'll just move the goalposts a bit and forget that I've made that. Do you know, it's making sure that we celebrate how far we've come, because running a business is hard. There's no, like, it's hard. That's the end of it. And it's amazing and it's great and it's hard. So it's just making sure that we celebrate.
Yes. If there's one lesson that you've learned, you want every entrepreneur to know, what would it be?
The biggest lesson is consistency, is being consistent. I don't know whether that's a lesson or it's just the thing that helped me to grow. Because when I started, there was nothing, like most of us. And then it was just keep on putting stuff out there, keep on doing the videos, keep on doing the marketing, keep on doing the work, and just show up, even when it's hard. That's the biggest lesson that I can have. And also, can I add another lesson in?
Please.
It's if there are challenges and there are weaknesses that you perceive, go and ask for help and get training if you need it, or get somebody else that is really good at doing that thing and get them to do it. Just try not to, as much as possible, do absolutely everything, because that's when we get stuck. Sometimes that's not an option, but if you can, ask for help.
Make a decision. Learn or outsource, and make it quickly, otherwise you get stuck.
That's a good one.
What is your favorite business book?
At the moment, it's Atomic Habits by James Clear. So I'm actually still reading it, but I did want to mention it because it's really helpful in regards to changing habits and letting go of habits that aren't serving you. And one of the things I really like that he says is that if you make a 1% change every day, that's tiny, if you look at that over the span of a year, it becomes a huge change. And it's just making those little changes each day. It doesn't even matter what it is, but just creating those positive habits. So that's what I'm reading at the moment. I'm in the middle of it at the moment, so I'm really loving it.
Laura, always a pleasure. Thank you so much for my training in what I know.
You're fabulous.
Thank you for being involved in Shiny New Crazy Daisy Volume 4 and the podcast.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. It's been wonderful, and I'm so glad to be a part of what you're doing. I think what you're doing is absolutely amazing. So keep on doing it. Crazy daisies.
Thanks, love. Thank you for watching. If you like what you saw, please like the video and click the subscribe button for this channel for more inspiration. If you're a businesswoman looking for that community that will support you and lift you up, come and join the Shiny New Crazy Daisy membership, offering online networking, co-working, collaboration and monthly masterclasses to grow your knowledge. Go to thedaisychaingroup.com for more information. And for even more inspiration, please go to the link under the video and get your copy of the Shiny New Crazy Daisy series of books with inspirational and motivating stories from businesswomen around the world.